Hi everyone. So in our Sacrament Year 2 classes, the students have been preparing for their First Communion Day, which is coming up in a few weeks. And I've been sharing stories with them about different miracles involving the Eucharist that have occurred over the years. And I've found this really neat little book last year. It looks like this. It's called Stories of the Blessed Sacrament. And it contains stories of real life, actual Eucharistic miracles that have occurred in different parts of the world throughout history. So it's kind of a really neat way to, it's kind of neat to read about these miracles and hear about all these ways that show that Jesus truly is present in the Eucharist, that it's really no longer just a piece of bread. It really is the body of Jesus. So I shared one story from this book already about the mule that knelt down in front of the Blessed Sacrament. Even the mule recognized that Jesus was present there. And then for this video, I have got another story that I would like to share with you from this book. This one is called Fire, Fire. Here we go. On the Monday after Pentecost in 1608, the abbey bells in Faverny, France were chiming 3 o'clock in the morning. The monks awoke and headed to the church for Matin, the prayers that are said in the earliest hours of the day. As usual, the sacristan took the big church key out of his pocket. As he opened the door, thick smoke stung his eyes and filled his lungs. "Fire! Fire!" he cried out in horror. Flames crackled around the altar where the Blessed Sacrament was exposed in a beautiful silver monstrance. The monks came running, as well as some of the villagers roused from their sleep by the cries. "Quick! Quick! Bring buckets of water! Hurry!" They formed a chain to pass the buckets. By the first rays of dawn, the fire had been put out, but the church had suffered much damage. The marble altar was in ruins, and the brass candlesticks had melted. Nothing was left of the sumptuous fabrics that had hung in the sanctuary. "But where is the monstrance with the consecrated host?" the Father Prior gravely asked. Everyone searched through the rubble where the altar had been. Suddenly, Antoine Hudelot, a young novice, only 13 years old, pointed his finger up in the air. "There it is! Look!" Indeed, the monstrance, with the host clearly visible, was there above them, at the same height where they had placed it the night before. Though everything beneath it had been destroyed, it was hovering in midair all on its own. The sacristan was about to grab it, but a monk held him back. "Don't you see? It's a miracle!" They all gathered around to gaze in amazement at the monstrance defying the law of gravity. News of the miracle spread like wildfire through the town. The people of Faverny came to help clean up the church, but above all, they came to see this extraordinary wonder with their own eyes. There were soon so many people they were all jostling each other. Workmen carried in a long plank of wood to hold back the crowd, but as they did so, they accidentally bumped it into the choir gate right near the monstrance. "Watch out!" someone yelled. "You're going to knock it down!" The gate rattled and swung shut with a loud bang, but the monstrance didn't budge an inch. Soon, groups of people were arriving from the neighboring villages. The miracle continued as, with awe and admiration, the visitors contemplated the monstrance suspended in midair. Some Capuchin monks nearby, who were renowned for their scholarship and holiness, were informed of the miracle, and they came to examine the extraordinary phenomenon. One of them had a stick, then a cloth passed all around the monstrance. But no, there was nothing attached to it, nothing holding it in place. There was no other explanation for the midair monstrance than the hand of God. During that whole day of Pentecost Monday, right into the night, a steady stream of the faithful came to pray with all their heart before the hovering monstrance. The news also drew the simply curious. Like one man who said, "I couldn't believe my eyes. I went in and out of the church more than 30 times to look at it, trying, if it were possible, to understand such a miracle. In the end, I prayed to God to enlighten me, and I understood that a monstrance couldn't remain hanging in the air like that without some supernatural power." When and how will this end? Everyone was wondering. The next day, around 10 o'clock in the morning, the curate of a neighboring village, who had come with his parishioners to see the miracle, was celebrating Mass in the church. At the very moment he pronounced the words of consecration, the monstrance very gently descended on its own to the temporary altar that had been set up below it. And so the miracle ended, after about 33 hours, and after thousands of people had witnessed it. The Archbishop of Besançon, France, ordered a very thorough investigation. It concluded that this was an authentic miracle, which Pope Pius IX later confirmed. In 1908, splendid celebrations were held for the third centenary of the miracle in the church of Faverny, which had since become a basilica. This miracle made such an impression on people that soon thereafter, a drawing of the monstrance could be found engraved on walls or furniture in almost every home in the region. All right. Isn't that a neat story? So the monstrance was just, first of all, it was not destroyed in the fire, right? That's pretty miraculous in and of itself, that it wasn't, because the candlesticks that were sitting on the altar near the monstrance were melted, but the monstrance itself was not harmed at all, okay? And not only that, but the altar it had been sitting on had crumbled, so the monstrance was just floating there in midair. Like, what a miracle. Isn't that amazing? And it didn't come back down until they had that temporary altar built underneath it. And when the priest was saying Mass the next day, right after he said the words of consecration, which is the moment when this miracle occurs and the bread and the wine become the body and blood of Jesus, that's when the monstrance floated down from the air and just landed right on the altar, very gently. That's pretty amazing, okay? Pretty amazing. Now, if you were wondering what is a monstrance, okay, maybe you haven't watched the video about adoration. It's this beautiful, usually golden container that you put a piece of the Blessed Sacrament, so one of the consecrated hosts. It holds one of the consecrated hosts in it. So it's a way for you to, and then they usually set it on an altar, and people will come and pray because you're spending time with Jesus. You've got Jesus right there in the consecrated host, held inside this beautiful container called a monstrance, okay? And again, like I said, people will come for Eucharistic adoration, so they'll come and pray in front of that Blessed Sacrament because you're spending time in the presence of Jesus, okay? So if you were wondering what a monstrance was, that's what it is. You can also see it in the pictures in the book, okay? So I hope you enjoyed that story, and I think maybe next week I'll have another story to share with you about the Eucharist, right? Have a great day, guys. Bye.